Mrs. S with Tree Montessori. Welcome to our classroom. I want to give you a tour of our Montessori Homeschool Classroom. This is the beginning of the year with an upper elementary student and a middle schooler. We have a whole room in our house that we have devoted to our classroom, and we are very, very blessed to have that. We have not always had such a luxury. We have homeschooled at the kitchen table with textbooks and a few Montessori materials, and we did just wonderfully. You can grow into this. Just use what you have. Start where you're at. If you have one shelf, I encourage you to get out whatever Montessori or hands-on materials that you have to support your child. And I'll give you a tour of where we've kind of grown into and how you might use these ideas in your own homeschool. The first shelf I'll introduce you to is our cultural shelf, and then our writing desk is right next to it. Our cultural shelf has our science materials, and beginning at the top and going from the left to the right, because when we set up our Montessori shelf, we begin at the top and then we go from top to bottom, left to right with materials, because that's how we read, that's how we research, that's how we write, that's how we orient ourselves. I have my lovely sponge here, which really doesn't have much to do with anything. It's more of a decoration. When we do study zoology, it is our porifera sponge that we will have our hands-on specimen to engage with. My children, being in upper elementary and middle school, need magnification microscope work. So we have our microscope, which I've ordered from Home Science Tools. And it came with some slides, which we have here, and it came with the student workbook and a curriculum book with lessons. Here we have our specimens that we've collected. Some of these we've had for a while. We've got our butterfly we've had for a while, and its wing is now not doing so great. Some feathers, a couple of dragonfly wings, a moth. We found this mockingbird egg in our yard. We have already kind of had some fun with these when our microscope first came in, so that'll be a great place to start. At the beginning of the year, this is a beginning of the year setup, you want to put out things that are somewhat familiar and that are engaging for your children. Both my children need chemistry this year as well, so I ordered these from the Home Science Tools as well, and I have the things set up here for the first 2 or 3 experiments. We have our volcano that we've made with a jar and some clay. We always do the beginning of the universe story, the first grade lesson. Here we have some of these beginning of the year materials that go with the first grade lesson as kind of a follow-up study. These are used in lower elementary and upper elementary. Here we have the layers of the sun with the 3-part cards, and I made this little puzzle out of felt, and I made this chart. These 3-part cards and the chart I have up on our Teachers Pay Teachers store. So if you go to Teachers Pay Teachers, Tree Montessori, you can find those there. Same with our phases of the moon. I made the chart and the cards and also this felt puzzle. So again, beginning of the school year, putting out things that they've done before that they can do as a review is a great place to start. These are our rocks and minerals. So we will be doing earth study very soon after the first grade lesson. And I got these 3-part cards and chart for the parts of the atom. Since we'll be learning about the elements and the table of elements, we need to get our parts of the atom down first. And I got these cards from Montessori for Everyone. She makes beautiful printable materials. These shelves have our math materials that we have been using last year and will continue to use this year. Again, you want to put out things that your child is familiar with at the beginning of the year, just so they don't need so many new lessons on things. This is the bead cabinet, which you may have seen before. It's pretty classic Montessori. It's used in preschool all the way through upper elementary. It has the long chains for cubing, the short chains for squaring. It's used for skip counting, multiplication facts, squaring, square rooting, and cubing. We, as upper elementary and middle school, will be continuing with square rooting and with cubing, and to stay sharp with the multiplication facts. All of these little containers hold the arrows. I made and printed them out. They are on Teachers Pay Teachers. We have our clock up here for elapsed time. My upper elementary student still sometimes likes to use that. We have our pegboard square rooting cards from Alison's Montessori. We have our pegboard on the other side of the room. These are some little multiplication tickets that I made. Here we have our multi-digit multiplication and our long division work. My upper elementary child is loving this long division work, and we're going to be using our checkerboard to do multi-digit multiplication again this year. I like this cloth set because the beads don't roll around as much and it's easy to store. I have these tiles that I printed out from Montessori for Everyone to do those multi-digit multiplication equations. So this is actually the division bead board for division facts, which we also can practice. And then the division material. The long division material is typically used by children in 3rd grade through 4th or 5th grade, depending on where they're at with their long division work. We have our bead bars, which can be used for all the facts, for addition, subtraction, multiplication, also for algebra, which we will be using them for that this year especially. We have our placeholder beads and our subtraction beads in the gray. We have this from the bank game. It is some numeral cards in the millions, really good for place value and doing standard and expanded form. This shelf is our decimal shelf. So in 4th grade, 5th grade, they begin doing decimal work. This really does a great job of teaching the concept as well as the operations. I have a couple of task card holders from Alison's Montessori there. The decimal material I got off of Amazon, I think from Elite Montessori, as well as the bead bars. The bead bars I also got off of Amazon from, I think, Elite Montessori. This is the cubing material from Alison's Montessori, and this will help us do cubing and cube rooting, which we have not begun, but hopefully we'll start this year. Here we have our rugs. We have a couple of rugs just for working on the floor if we have a large piece of work, or on the table with beads. We don't want them rolling around. The rugs are really nice. I got the rugs from ETC Montessori. I have a few math materials on the bottom of this shelf. We have the fraction pieces, and the black frame next to it is the centesimal frame, and it shows fractions as percents. It's a really nice material for introducing percents. And then this is the fraction ruler, so it shows the ruler with all the lines and also shows them as fractions. On this shelf we have a little bit of history as well as language. We will be studying about the Constitution this year, so I have this little paper one I picked up at some museum years ago, and then a copy of the Constitution that one of the parents in one of my classrooms that I taught in gave me. Here we have sentences and sentence analysis. We are starting out just with simple diagramming simple sentence, so that would be a subject and a predicate. My children are beyond this, but because it's the beginning of the year and we haven't done much work with this material in a while, we've been doing it in our workbooks, I wanted to give them that hands-on experience again, just from the beginning. Here we have our grammar work. So I got this grammar work from ETC Montessori, as well as these nice little holders from ETC. This is the upper elementary noun work. They also have lower elementary, very similar. It looks very similar to this. Because our shelf space is a little bit limited, I'm going to pull out each part of speech as we introduce it and work with it. I have a noun symbol that I made out of Sculpey clay years ago for one of my first Montessori classrooms. And then this black container holds some cards. It's actually called Packet A. It says take Packet A and sort the cards. So those are in there. We have the symbols, which will help us to really look at the upper elementary grammar. These are used for lower and upper elementary. This is a continuation of our language. This is word study and verb conjugation. I got these card sets from ETC Montessori. It starts with homonym. These are all for upper elementary. My middle schooler loved the hyperbole cards, so she was getting a huge kick out of those. And then we have verb conjugation at the upper elementary level. It's very deep work, so even middle schoolers, I think, benefit from this work. They do also make lower elementary sets for word study. We are doing something new this year for history and geography. We've done a lot of the Montessori 3-part cards in the past, a lot of the puzzle maps, and this year we're using a literature approach, kind of a Charlotte Mason literature approach. I got these from Beautiful Feet, and they have literature books that they will follow along with a curriculum, discussion questions, links, and things to discover early American history and geography. This is the set for my middle schooler, and this is the set for my upper elementary student. And they also sell lower elementary, and it's just a literature-based approach to history and geography. So I'm looking forward to that. This is the first time we'll use those. Here are my upper elementary Montessori manuals. If you're looking for a manual to see lessons for different materials, they sell both lower and upper elementary. This is from Montessori Research and Development. There you go. We're also going to do the Constitution study from The Good and the Beautiful. So we're going to try that out this year and see how that goes. This shelf has our whiteboard area. This is going to be the art, handwork, music shelf. So if you have a younger child, this would be a great place to put a lot of the practical life work, scooping, pouring, a lot of handwork like sewing. We do have on the bottom shelf, there is our crocheting. My children took crochet lessons last year, and they're gonna keep working on that. We're gonna start out working with line, and we're also going to be doing self-portraits at the beginning of the year. We have Georgia O'Keeffe Artist Study. These are the metal insets, which are usually used in the preschool, but I find that even for upper elementary, middle school, they're just great geometry, drawing, and art, really just making geometry art. Both of my children take piano lessons, so I have this staff paper that they can practice writing out some notes. We have some clipboards, placemats for clay work. This is our supply shelf and our geometry shelf. We have the constructive triangle box, the hexagon boxes, and the rectangle triangle boxes with task cards from Alison's Montessori. These are typically used in preschool to learn the shapes and do constructive geometry work. And for us in middle school and upper elementary, we will be using them to solve formulas. For example, with this triangle, we might find the area of this triangle using base times height. The constructive triangle task cards from Alison's Montessori have been very helpful. This is the detective triangle game. So it has a bunch of triangles and then a prompt to find a triangle based on its adjectives, like the large, blue, obtuse, angled, isosceles triangle. It's language adjective practice, but it's also our practice with shapes. This is a really beautiful puzzle from Alison's Montessori, and it has a control chart underneath. It has all the shapes that are in the drawers, the geometry drawers, here in puzzle form. So for us, that worked really nicely because of cost and space saving. The geometry stick box can be used to create all sorts of shapes. If you don't have any of the other materials, this stick box will still allow you to be able to give so many geometry lessons. So I highly recommend that. And then I put out this little tangram puzzle and book. I think it's just really great practice with geometry. Then we have our locker. This is, my children call it their locker. They put their books in their locker, their folders, papers, finished work, work that they need to continue, all of that. So that is our Montessori Homeschool Classroom Tour. We also use an open and go curriculum book for our math and our language. And we've been using Good and the Beautiful. This is one of our math books. We use it, but we also use the Montessori materials. There are some things that we will practice in here, and then we'll go to the shelf and we'll get the material. Or I might see that decimals is coming up, and so I will go and grab the decimal material and I'll give them an introduction with the material, and then we'll go into the book and really do some book work. And this is me using this with an upper elementary student and a middle schooler. So we're really at that point where they're moving towards abstraction, and work like this is really good for them. But also the Montessori materials really give them the concrete introduction that is so helpful. I'd like to make a quick note about management, how to manage the Montessori Homeschool Classroom. We've done a lot of different things in the past, and you will find what works best for you and your child. But here's what we're going to try this year. Now that we have so many more Montessori materials, I want our 3 hours in the morning to be traditional Montessori work time. I created these little journals, and we're going to see how they work. So it's a work journal that is weekly and also daily. On this page over here is the work menu. In each of the areas that they have, I and they will collaborate to write the different things that they need to practice or have had lessons on recently and need to do follow-up for. And those will be just listed here so that they can pull 1 or 2 things from each area and put them on their daily work plan. Place for the date at the top. I have 4 lines for math, a workbook page because we are doing both workbooks and hands-on materials, and any lessons that I give for this day. Then I have language, same thing. I have writing. My children are both very into creative writing and they want to hone that skill. I have art, music, and then a daily goals and reflections. This is where they could write something that they have a goal for, something that they're reflecting on for that day, just a little journal space for them. I can see, I think I want to add in science here. I think I'm going to go back and add that in. I'm going to see how these work, make any tweaks to them, and then maybe I'll put these up on Teachers Pay Teachers. Just a little note on management. We've done other things like checklists in the past. You can try different things to help manage your child's work, especially at the elementary level and very much so in the middle school level.